Can you believe that since 2018, we have been on the most chaotic, eye-opening, profound healing journey imaginable? Of course you can. Obviously, we have all lived through it. Since 2018, Chiron has been in Aries, and the journey has been about how we can actually build up enough confidence to know that we have the right to exist, which is such tea. But this week, Chiron moves into Taurus for the first time in 50 years. Yes, honey, 50 years. And let me tell you, let me warn you that everything is about to change. Tea is served. Hello, and welcome to Astrology with Aliza Kelly. I am your host and your spiritual friend, Aliza Kelly, and I'm so happy that you're here. This is your weekly brew. I serve it to you hot and fresh every single Monday, and the theme of the week is big healing. And the top 3 things you need to know are, number 1, Chiron, the comet, known as the wounded healer, which represents our deepest and most core pain points and ultimately our ability to heal, is moving into Taurus for the first time since 1976. That's 50 years, baby. 50 years since Chiron has been in Taurus. Number 2, we are starting a brand new chapter that's going to take us into 2034. And the focus is going to be on healing our relationship with our body, with our money, with the literal world around us. We are entering a brand new era, and wherever Taurus is in your chart is about to go through something pretty major. And number 3, this, my friend, for all of us means that a chapter that started actually back in 2018 is coming to a close. Think about what was going on in your life then and what has changed, especially as it relates to themes of identity and acceptance and your right to exist exactly as you are. It's tea, mommy. It is a lot of tea, and this is some real shit today. If you are new here, welcome, darling. What a week to join us. You found us right on time because, woo, here we go. The next few days ahead are very, very big, and I'm really glad you're here because I'm here to serve. For anyone who just stumbled upon this tea, this astrology, you should know that I serve on Mondays and Wednesdays, twice a week, honey. Every Monday, expect your weekly brew to get you set up with your horoscope and a journal prompt and a tarot pull, along with an explanation as to what the hell is going on in the sky. And then on Wednesdays, the tea is piping hot. We have tea parties where we deep dive into astrology and we bring it all to life. This week's Wednesday tea party is actually going to be about what Chiron means in your birth chart, and we're going to go deeper into the mythology, and honey, you're really not going to want to miss the brew. Also, a reminder that we are filling up pretty quickly, but there are still spots available for my summer astrology retreat. It's taking place on August 7th, 8th, and 9th at the Omega Center, Omega Institute, which is about 90 minutes from New York City, super easy to get to. The retreat is going to be centered around the solar eclipse that's happening right then, which is going to be like a very wild experience, truly something life-changing. So this means that we're going to be talking about destiny and fate and purpose, and it's going to be amazing, okay? So head over to tinyurl.com/Aliza-retreat to learn more about it and register right now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting this brand new podcast. Yes, it's still very new in its very earliest days. If you haven't had a moment to rate the podcast yet, do it right now. Give it 5 stars, slap those on, and give us a review. And then, of course, follow and subscribe to the show. This is an independent podcast, so your support means the world. It takes a community, and I am so grateful that you are part of this magic for us right here, right now. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. Thank you for entrusting me with your astrology. Your weekly brew is coming right up, so stay tuned, honey. We will be right back. Welcome, my beautiful community, to Astrology and your Monday weekly brew. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we have quite the week to unpack. So let's talk about it, okay? This week, one of the most important astrological happenings of 2026 touches down, and that is Chiron moving into Taurus, which is introducing us to a celestial body plus zodiac sign combo platter that we have not experienced in 50 years. So depending on how old you are right now, this may be the first time in your entire life that you are going to experience Chiron in Taurus. And it's major because any celestial body that works through orbits that are this wide and this long and this storied signals change that's going to be happening on both a personal and a collective level. So big energy here, my divas and divos and darlings. Are you ready? Chiron represents our deepest wounds, along with the fears and anxieties and challenges that emerge around those pain points. Chiron's mythology is so beautiful and so dramatic and so powerful. Like, truly, it's a story that makes me cry. And our Wednesday episode of Astrology, our tea party, so coming out in 2 days, we are going to be talking about Chiron in your birth chart, and we are going to really get into the mythology of Chiron's namesake and what it looks like for you and why it matters. So hold on to your teacup until then. But what you should know right now is that Chiron represents an almost primordial emotional injury. Sometimes it's even a physical injury, and that injury is never going to heal. Period. So ultimately, it is our job to figure out how we are going to integrate it. And when I say integrate it, I mean discover that this wound is also our greatest source of compassion and care, and it offers us tremendous wisdom and strength. And Chiron speaks to a lifelong journey of pain and hardship and suffering. It's very Eastern philosophy, but also acceptance and recovery and progress and compassion and healing, honey, big healing. And that's the key word. That's really what it's all about. Healing, healing, healing. Now, Chiron is technically not a planet. It's actually not even technically a comet. I call it a comet. It's actually what astronomers refer to as a centaur, which is a celestial body that sort of has qualities and properties of a minor planet and also a comet. Chiron in mythology is also a centaur, so it's T. But Chiron's orbit is a really interesting one because it hangs out a lot between Saturn and Uranus, but it actually also gets very close to our inner solar system as well. The truth is that as we learn more about Chiron, its astronomical classifications keep changing, which I feel is very tank. There are no coincidences, since in astrology, Chiron symbolizes the healing journey, which is also constantly being reclassified and changing. Chiron, as a celestial body, has not really been in our astrological lexicon for a very long time because Chiron was only just discovered in 1977. So obviously I had to pull the chart for the day it was discovered, November 1st, 1977. And on that day, the sun was in Scorpio, making an opposition to Chiron because Chiron was in Taurus. Yes, honey, Chiron was in Taurus when it was discovered for the very first time. And Chiron has not been in Taurus since that time. It is tank yet again. There are no coincidences because this means that with Chiron moving into Taurus now, it is also our first full orbit of incorporating the Chiron archetype into our astrological interpretations. Not to mention that the last time Chiron was in Taurus, it was the bicentennial, 200 years of the United States, and now it's back again, 250 years of the United States. What does that mean? We'll find out. And also, honey, because I am a nerd, in fact, all astrologers are nerds. In fact, if your astrologer is not a nerd, time to get a new astrologer. But it's true. I want to share with you that there's this really crazy phenomenon that happens in astrology, which is that the discovery of a planet or a celestial point really mirrors the conditions and the zeitgeist of that time, and then really becomes embedded in the symbolism of the planet or celestial point or celestial body that it is. So let me give you a few examples, okay? The discovery of Uranus was the first planet that was spotted with a telescope during the Enlightenment, a time that was about philosophical and technological revolution, a time that was designed and really at its core was structured around like blowing open perception around religion and our ideologies and what we perceive the world to be. And Uranus is the planet of genius and revolution and technology and rebellion. And it was the planet that busted open the entire astrological tradition, because prior to Uranus, it was believed that our solar system ended with Saturn. And then suddenly Uranus came through and it was like, oh shit, there's more? Well, what else is out there? Well, Neptune. Neptune was discovered about 100 years later, and this one was actually discovered by way of scientists dreaming about it. Like literally we're dreaming up what a planet could be beyond Uranus. They didn't have the technological expertise to be able to get there for a while because it's even so much further out than Uranus. So they were mythologizing on its presence. They were literally like imagining where it could be, what it could be doing. And then when it was ultimately discovered, Neptune is the planet of illusion and dreaming and spirituality and like expanding our concepts, right? And then there's Pluto, because this is really a phenomenon. It's tea, okay? Pluto was discovered after an astronomer began to hypothesize on this celestial body. He was calling it Planet X, which is like, very Pluto coded. And then he died. And then his widow became responsible for like avenging this astronomer's spirit and continuing the search for this mystery planet posthumously. And Pluto is the underworld, and it's our power, and it's our resurrection, and it definitely has like a lot of vengeance baked into it. It's tea, it's tank, we love it. Astrology is amazing, mysticism is amazing, and you can't make this shit up. And with Chiron, it totally fits the pattern because its discovery in 1977 perfectly echoes a lot of what that era was all about in the mid to late 70s. We were coming out of these big changes in the 1960s, and the 70s was a very tough, a very difficult decade where there were a lot of implications. There was a lot of financial stress. There was the energy crisis. And then really there was this profound sadness and recognition of the aftermath of the Vietnam War and bringing our veterans back, right? And exploring the psychological implications of what that did for the first time. In fact, the term post-traumatic stress disorder was established in the late 70s and was officially presented as a term for consideration to all of the different American psychiatric boards in 1978. Yes, right when Chiron was discovered and when Chiron was in Taurus. It's crazy, right? It's tank. Okay, now back to Chiron from a physical perspective. Astronomically, Chiron has a funky little orbit because it actually sort of moves between the planets in our solar system. It doesn't follow the same pattern that the other planets that we track does. So sometimes it is much closer to Earth. It's actually in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, which is why sometimes you could think it's an asteroid. And sometimes it's incredibly far out, like almost as far out as Uranus. So because of that, there are certain zodiac signs that Chiron races through just based on which part of the zodiac it's moving through when it's closest to Earth. Like Chiron in Libra is only about a 2-year-long cycle, but Chiron in Pisces or Chiron in Aries, which is what we are just coming out of, the most recent Chiron journeys, they're very, very long. It takes Chiron 8 to 9 years to move through those signs. So always, but especially with those longer orbit signs and experiences, Chiron is really speaking to a collective healing. So this week, Chiron is moving into Taurus. And with that, Chiron is going to be introducing all of us to a brand new storyline that is going to last until 2034, with a very brief retrograde back into Aries before it settles in for good in 2027. And that story is going to be about the embodiment of healing. Taurus is an earth sign. It is the first earth sign of the zodiac, and it is so deeply associated with the physical world. So Chiron in Taurus is going to speak to our environmental healing, our physical healing, our nutritional healing, our financial healing, even our healing as it relates to pleasure and sensuality and self-love. So look to see where Taurus is in your birth chart, because that is the area of life where you are going to see this metamorphosis and healing journey start to emerge over the next several years, especially around your body, your worth, your money, and like what it means for you to feel satiated and fulfilled in your own beautiful little world. And I also should mention that because Taurus is fixed earth, this is not only healing that is going to happen through like breakthroughs, right? There's not going to be a singular realization or one good shower cry that like solves it all. Like we love a shower cry, but really this healing is going to happen through practice, through steadiness, through repetition, through slow and steady awareness. And of course, I am about to serve you your Chiron in Taurus horoscope. Yes, I am. Don't worry. But also identifying where this is going to land in your birth chart is super important. So use time passages. That's always my rec for a good birth chart calculating app. Pull up your chart, notice any planets or points in Taurus, along with the houses that contain the sign of Taurus, because wherever Taurus is in your chart is where Chiron is going to be activating, and it's going to ask you, where have you been gripping? Where have you decided that things are stable? So much so that you haven't even looked around to consider whether or not they suit you anymore. What would it feel like for you to actually invest in building something that is softer and stronger simultaneously, maybe something that is just more sustainable broadly? I feel like the Taurus in my life are always trying to teach me how to like slow it down, calm down, relax. And I'm always like, I can't. I'm in constant resistance, right? But even as I share this about Chiron and Taurus, and I reflect on this now, like, yeah, that is totally what the next chapter is going to teach all of us. That is the lesson we all have to learn. And maybe it is going to be a total and complete rejection of modernity in some aspects of life, right? Like maybe we are all going to be getting back to thy garden, baby, getting thy hands dirty, farm to table, but you made the table yourself. Oh my God, I'm dressed for the occasion. We love to see it. Sexy, sexy, sexy. So cool and outdoorsy. Oh my God, T. Actually, in that vein, the other piece of the puzzle is that Taurus is ruled by Venus. So Chiron in Taurus is not just about survival. It's also about pleasure and beauty and desire and sensuality and receiving. And this is a huge deal because so many of us believe that healing has to be miserable, right? Like it has to kill us. It has to torture us. But Chiron in Taurus says, baby, hello. What if healing actually feels good? What if there's a little bit of softness and a little bit of aesthetic to this? Like, what if your healing doesn't need to be the worst, most painful, brutal thing that you have ever experienced? What if the medicine is not actually being deprived, but it is really leaning into the devotion of your life, making sure that you feel happy and fulfilled and grateful and appreciative of what you have and what life can offer you? Like, there is a healing journey to be said for that, right? And that is another part of the Chiron in Taurus story. Now, when one planet or celestial body moves into a new sign, it means that it closes out a chapter of where it had been before. And back in 2018 is when Chiron first entered Aries, which is the sign of identity and selfhood and individualism. And on both personal and collective levels, this has forced all of us to reckon with the wounds around identity and agency and selfhood and courage and anger and fighting and just like simply accepting ourselves for who we are. We've all had had to acknowledge our insecurities, our feelings around not being good enough, around being left out, around being misunderstood, whatever it is that has made us feel stuck, whatever it is that has made us feel like we just do not have a seat at the table. And we have made sure that we pull it up no matter what, right? Like we have had to figure that out. We have had to learn how to advocate for ourselves. We have had to learn how to accept ourselves. And this has been hard and tremendously important. So think about what has been going on in your life since 2018 and how that journey of self-acceptance and healing wounds relating to your selfhood and your individuality and just, like who you are has shown up and perhaps even played a central role in your life. Of course, anyone who has strong Aries placements can tell us about it, right? Lots of reconciling for our Aries friends around who they are and what they have to offer and contribute. Lots of stories around purpose. Lots of stories around just being you, just being Miley, baby. Aries placements, I know you get it. I know you do. And I think that on a collective level, seeing this huge boom of influencer culture since 2018 and TikTok and everyone just like trying to build a following to like no known end, right? It's very Chiron and Aries coded, maybe even like the shadow side of Chiron and Aries coded, because it's important, of course, that everyone feel like they can be seen and appreciated and acknowledged for who they are. But there is this like desperation for validation that I think is a little bit troubling. But when I think about this change that's to come and these changes that are inevitably happening, even with the other planets, right? Like Neptune and Aries and Uranus and Gemini, like we are going to see just this huge social media metamorphosis in the years ahead. And we're going to start witnessing it so soon. And maybe Chiron and Taurus is going to be a big part of that, right? Maybe it's going to shift the focus from just trying to be popular to actually trying to build things that support our real physical life too. Maybe. Ultimately, my darlings, what you need to know is that this week we are moving away from this concept of who am I into the concept of what sustains me. We are moving from identity into embodiment, from visibility into value, from fighting for the right to exist into building a life that supports that existence, honey. And after years of trying to brand ourselves and broadcast ourselves and prove ourselves, Chiron and Aries is bringing us back to the most basic, essential question, which is, are you even comfortable? Because that's tea. And of course, here is your journal prompt for the week ahead. What has my healing journey looked like since 2018, and how has it encouraged me to embrace my true and authentic self? Okay, my friends, this is a big tarot pull for the week ahead. If you are new here, you should know that we always pull a tarot card to get a deeper and different and complementary and maybe even challenging perspective. But when we have something like, Chiron moving into Taurus, like starting this whole new cycle, the stakes are high and they're hot and heavy. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they're high and hot and heavy. Either way, we're going to pull a tarot, and I wonder how this is going to enhance and add a deeper and different layer to our journey for this week and beyond, ... Okay, tarot, let us know. Chiron and Taurus. Oh, I'm sorry to say, it's Five of Pentacles. I mean, truly, it's tank. There are no coincidences. It's tank and it's tea, but like, this isn't what we wanted to see necessarily. Why is that the case? So, when we look back at the history of Chiron and Taurus, it doesn't have a great track record for times of financial prosperity. Now, look, in the year of our Lord 2026, I cannot say that like most of us, the majority of us, the vast majority of us are thriving, because we are now in a oligarchy, and it is very clear that you are either going to be a billionaire or anyone else, right? So like coming into Chiron and Taurus, we know that the conditions aren't ideal. But Chiron was in Taurus during the Great Depression. Chiron was also in Taurus during the energy crisis and, various economic downturns and recessions throughout the 70s and into the early 80s. And then up came Reaganomics. So from a financial, like a broad financial perspective, Chiron, the healing of Taurus around money, is kind of like a literal like penny pinching vibe, or hold on to what you got because there's not a lot going around. And because the Five of Pentacles literally depicts like people that are impoverished and like wounded, walking through the snow, downtrodden and defeated, while behind them is this like huge, beautiful, bejeweled, stained glass window, which indicates the fact that like there is something available, but just not for them. Yeah, I mean, I can't say j'adore it, but I will give you my positive spin on it. The positive spin is that this card is very much about finding a new path forward. It is the halfway point in our Pentacles journey. And when we pull this card, we often find ourselves in a period of feeling like we are not abundant. Like we have a lot of scarcity thinking. We have a lot of lack. Maybe our bank accounts are really quite literally reflecting it. And we have to remember that we need to push forward anyway and find new ways of being able to get on this journey, to get into this new story, to find an entryway into this warm, beautiful cathedral with this glowing amber light that's emanating from it, right? Like the positive of this card is that the story isn't done yet and there are new ways to look at the situation. And the negative of this card is this is where we find ourselves right now. Yikes. So with this Chiron and Taurus, it's very tank, but there are more things in life than just money, right? Right. There are more things in life than just money, but sometimes it can be hard to feel like that when you're in a bad financial situation. So, it's a good point that we did also pull Page of Pentacles last week, which was, learning how to work with new financial resources, learning to figure out what new income streams we're going to have available. So maybe following that tale, it's scary to try something new. It's scary when we don't know how things are going to work out for us, but yet halfway point in the story, we got to keep going. Okay, yeah, Five of Pentacles, it's here. We love it. Let's move on. Okay, coming up, let us talk about what Chiron in Taurus means for you. Yes, you, and what you should expect as we kick off this brand new cycle and wrap up everything that has been happening since 2018. Stay tuned for your personalized horoscope right after this quick break. Welcome back, friends. It's time for your horoscope. So if you are new here, I want to remind you or tell you about, teach you about, share with you two little things, okay? Number one, listen for your sun and your rising sign, because together these are going to tell a more complete and holistic story about what this is going to look like and feel like for you. And number two, I always go in astrological order. I always start with Aries. I end with Pisces. I will never do it any other way because I am a Virgo, Mercury, and Mars, okay? If you want to find your sign, use the timestamps or just like cruise, start at Aries and just like stay for the ride. Enjoy, because I guarantee you have friends and family and colleagues and children and parents and bosses who are, you're going to want to know what's going on with them. So let's do it. Let's dive in. Hi, Aries. Wow, 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 wow. Okay, bestie. Okay, little warrior baby bop. Let's talk. We gotta talk. Because since 2018, Chiron, the wounded healer, the wounded warrior, has been in your sign. And it has been no joke, no laughing matter, not even a little funny, okay? There is no one who has been more at the mercy of Chiron than you, period. There has been no one who has been as destabilized, as rattled, as humbled than you, my darling Aries, because Chiron came for you. It came for your identity. It came for your confidence. It came for you just existing. It just came for you, okay? Your sheer existence has been under attack since 2018. And while we love to see you standing up for yourself, we hate that it has been so hard for you. And it has been so hard, and we hate that. So think back to when this all began in 2018. What were you doing then? Who were you, right? Like, What was on your mind? Who were you trying to become? And then how did it become so abundantly clear that it wasn't going to work anymore and that you could not be anyone else but yourself? Somewhere along the way of this Chiron and Aries story, you were forced to confront really deep wounds around visibility and agency and your right to live and how you are going to fight for that right to live. It's tea, honey. Maybe this has looked like you learning to really advocate for yourself, not just strong arm your way into things, but really stand up for yourself even when no one was willing to go to bat for you. Or maybe this looked like leaving a job or a role that was burning you out and zapping you dry. Or maybe this looked like learning that playing it safe was not actually doing you any favors at all, or making choices based on what other people were doing, not keeping your eyes on your own paper, but looking over there, a waste of time. Am I right? Aries, as we wrap this whole damn thing up, Chiron is moving into Taurus, and now your healing journey is shifting towards self-worth and money and stability and what actually makes you feel safe in the world. Over the next several years, you are going to be rewriting your relationship to value. And I really mean that in every sense: financial value, emotional value, spiritual value, the value of your time and energy and talents and body and presence. Yes, Chiron in Taurus is going to be building on everything you have learned since 2018. And it's going to expose the areas of your life where scarcity or insecurity or fear, especially around resources, has been taking up way too much space, okay? Let it go. Pooh. Goodbye. You don't have to prove your worth in order to have value, right? You have intrinsic value, Aries. You know that now. So for your next act, it is time to build a life that reflects the one you deserve to live. And that is a delicious tea. Hi, Taurus. Honey, I know. I know that you thought that you were out of the woods because Uranus just left your sign. But actually, that was only because it had to make room for another baddie to come through and move into Taurus. Yeah, Chiron is moving into your sign. But before we get to that, pray tell, when it comes to your healing journey, what has that looked like since 2018? Because since 2018, Chiron has been moving through one of the most private and weird and emotional and psychologically loaded areas of your chart. So if that healing journey has ranged from feeling incredibly isolated to profoundly spiritual, totally checks out, because Chiron has been moving through an area of your chart that is all about your psychic experiences. And for someone like you, a Taurus, an earth sign, a fixed earth sign who needs certainty and proof and confirmation as to what the hell is going on, this emotional arc may have felt rather uncomfortable. What do you mean you're spiraling emotionally and you have no idea why? What do you mean that you're processing grief that didn't even belong to you because it was your mother's? What do you mean you're outgrowing your current reality but have no idea where you're going next? Pardon? But these big existential breakthroughs have changed you, Taurus. Yes, they have. And as Chiron shimmied through the most psychic region of your chart, you have learned to trust. You have learned to surrender. You have learned to accept the fact that you cannot always control the outcome. In fact, you can't really control much in this life. And we are proud of you. We really are proud of you, Taurus. But now, baby, get ready for chapter 2, because this week Chiron is moving into your sign for the first time since the 1970s, and there's no other way to say this. This is such a big deal. It is so major, major Taurus. Over the next several years, the healing journey becomes personal. It becomes about your identity and your confidence and how you feel in your body. How do you feel in your body? It's about how you feel in your bank account. It's about your relationship to every aspect of your life, with you, my little beautiful bovine, at the center of everything. And after all of that strange and ethereal healing, this next cycle is about finding the courage to accept yourself as you are. In fact, it's more about becoming more of yourself than you have ever been before. And Taurus, this is really going to take you on quite the ride. So make sure that you are buckled up, baby, because here goes everything. Hello, Gemini. So since 2018, Chiron in Aries has been moving through the area of your chart associated with collaborations, your dreams for the future, your sense of belonging. Yeah, it's been a little messy. There is this big question that has continued to rise to the surface around who are your people? Really, who are your people, Gemini? Who gets you? Who sees you? Who supports you? Chiron in Aries has been asking you to confront wounds around fitting in and feeling accepted, and whether you can actually feel safe existing in spaces that you once regarded as your sanctuaries, but now you're I don't even know if I belong here anymore. And this healing journey for you has really shown up and has been metabolized through things like friendship breakups, or maybe changes in your values, changes in your political ideologies or affiliations, or your moral standing around something, and then this strange tension between wanting to maintain closeness to certain communities while also recognizing that you no longer feel like you are part of those spaces and places anymore. And as the years have progressed, this journey has become more and more heady, more and more cerebral, more and more existential, because you're realizing that it's less about your social connections and it's more about your spiritual convictions. And that is tank. Right? That is exactly why this next journey, this next stage, part 2, is Chiron moving into Taurus, and it's picking up in the most intuitive, ethereal, and otherworldly area of your chart. The story continues, and now the focus is shifting to your subconscious and to your mental health and to your fears and your grief and the psychic imprints of many generations of stories, some stories that aren't even yours. This is spiritual healing, Gemini. This is psychic healing. It's giving silent retreats. It's giving time in a monastery. It's giving past life regression. It's giving dream analysis. It's giving therapy, okay? Period. It's giving therapy. But before you panic, because I know a lot of the above modalities aren't exactly your go-to, right? Not your default settings. I want to reassure you that this isn't about misery and isolation. This is really about building strength and deepening your understanding of the world and reality and yourself within the world and reality, but on a profound level. Not to mention, Gemini, that you're still going to have Uranus in your sign for the next 7 years, making sure you are leading the revolution. Hello, Mr. Washington crossing the Delaware, okay? We got it. You got that whole thing going on, but you also now have a little support for your emotional well-being. From a spiritual point of view, it's not a bad thing. It's perfectly timed. What can I say, honey? Gemini, it's tank. There are no coincidences. And over the next few years, you are going to learn a lot about synchronicities. Woo, that's tea. Hi, Cancer. So since 2018, Chiron in Aries, Aries being a fellow cardinal sign, has been lighting up the area of your chart around success and career and purpose and visibility, which means your healing has been so specifically focused on those areas of life, which is tea because it's also meant that you have had to do a lot of healing in the public eye. People have had to become aware of your struggles and your mental health and what's working and what isn't working. And honey, oh my God, for a Cancer, for you, for a little hermit crab, this has been the greatest challenge and torture of all, right? You don't want people to see you sweat, let alone crash out. But that is actually exactly why it's been a healing journey. Being allowed to be vulnerable and not being afraid to have witnesses to that tenderness. Yeah, it's a big thing, Cancer. So, honey, I know that you have been feeling it. And whether that has been manifesting as certain career stories not fully unfolding or not fully unfolding in the way you wanted them to, or maybe it's bosses or supervisors or authority figures that you once really looked up to, letting you down, or maybe certain goals just didn't pan out, or maybe actually everything was going according to plan, but then you just realized I'm not fulfilled by this. In fact, I'm being totally drained and burnt out by this. And I need to take a step back, even though, technically my job title is amazing and it's everything I thought that I wanted. I can't do this. And that was painful, but also incredibly brave. Ultimately, Cancer, darling, Chiron in Aries has been healing wounds around your relationship to achievement. But now, this week, time for a new story. As Chiron enters Taurus, your focus begins to shift towards your friendships and the communities that you're part of and the connections and the dreams for the future that you want to see play out. Over the next several years, you're healing your relationship to belonging, to support, to letting people actually show up for you, and to find the communities that actually reflect your values. Recognizing that healing isn't personal, it is and will always be collective. And yeah, there's going to be some friendships that are going to not be able to withstand that. But Cancer, the ones that you are able to cultivate and the ones that are going to be able to come with you into this next section of life are going to be really important and really profound. And you are going to find yourself playing this invaluable role in these larger karmic stories that unfold through time, through many generations. And you are going to see how your contributions to society really, really matter, Cancer. So go off, Cancer, because guess what? You are the future. Hello, Leo, my little radiant sunshine lollipop lion head. Okay, since 2018, Chiron in Aries has been asking you to do something that frankly has felt very offensive. And you probably know what it is already. And if you don't, let me give you a clue. Let me just tell you. It's learning how to find trust in the process, even when the process gave you nothing. For the past several years, Chiron in Aries has been moving through the part of your chart connected to learning and growth and travel and education and spirituality, expanding your perspective. Theoretically good things, right? But this means that for you, the last several years have pushed you out of your comfort zone into situations where you had no idea what to do. You had no idea what you were doing. You had to watch other people get their flowers, and you were just like, I don't know how to swim, right? I don't know how to catch up. And even then, when you started to like doggy paddle, you rarely felt like you could be the star of the show because you weren't. And that's tea. I know it's rude, offensive, it's unacceptable, but it's true. So think back to 2018. What new skill were you beginning to learn? What new territory were you stepping into for the very first time? Maybe you were going back to school, or maybe you were learning how to be in a relationship, learning how to be a parent, learning how to show up in a new type of job or a new type of industry, learning how to trust yourself as you stepped into territory that you didn't even know existed before. And Leo, this has been humbling. It has been humbling. But here's the thing. I know that experience has left you feeling a little bit like fried, right? Because you want to glow, you want to feel radiant. My God, at least you want to feel like you know what you're doing. But Chiron and Aries said, actually, babe, the growth here is about you being a beginner and trying and failing and trying again and then failing again and resisting the urge to give up, because mastery doesn't happen overnight. What you see as an overnight success actually takes 10 years, actually takes a full Chiron chapter, because Leo, the story shifts, Chiron moves into Taurus, and the focus turns towards your career and your visibility and your purpose. And yes, the mastery that you have been working on over the next several years. All of that experimenting, all of those growing pains, all of that hard work is going to become tangible, okay? Chiron in Taurus is going to ask, what do you want to be known for? What skills are you ready to show off, to showcase? What legacy do you actually even want to build? And Leo, this is still Chiron we're talking about, okay? So it's going to be tender. It's going to expose some insecurities around said success and expertise and leadership, whether you are actually good enough, but you know you are. You know that you cannot be an amateur forever. And this is the chapter where you show up. This is the chapter where you prove it. This is where you need to flex. And it's the time where you're also going to need to show people that you are vulnerable, right? Are you scared? Don't be, because you have been working up to this for years. And you are going to appreciate the opportunity to shine, albeit shining with a few, freckles and flaws, all of it. But being vulnerable is really going to be the way of the future for all of us, for the collective, but really for you, most importantly too. It's the new way of being. So ready or not, Leo, here it comes. Lock in. Let's get it. Hi, Virgo. Okay, have a little sippage of water, please, because we have to talk about some stuff, some real stuff. In 2018, Chiron moved into Aries, and basically since then, it has been dragging you down into some very deep, dark, murky, haunted waters. Are you scared? Yeah, I'm sure you have been scared because this has been a very spooky time. Spooky, scary? Yeah, spooky, scary, to say the absolute least. Chiron in Aries has been moving through the area of your chart connected to trust and intimacy and vulnerability and grief and loss and shared resources and the emotional consequences of our actions. In other words, it's sex, death, and transformation, baby. And Virgo, take it from me. I know that a little goth aesthetic looks good on absolutely everyone, but to be dredging through this swamp for so long, since 2018, that's too hardcore. So, let's actually put this into some practical manifestations, okay? What does this mean for you? What's been happening? Virgo, have you had to grieve something or someone that you were not ready to lose? Or maybe you have been reconciling some very intense feelings around trust, maybe money or the stakes around money, the emotional implications of having money rose to the top. Maybe life simply forced you to realize that you can't just heal and fix things the way that you wanted to, the way that you want to biohack your way out of having these very hardcore and intense emotions. It doesn't work because Chiron in Aries for you has made you realize that sometimes it's actually just about feeling your feelings and letting your feelings be what they are, letting your feelings be sad, letting yourself be disappointed, letting yourself feel defeated, and knowing that the depths and the complexity of these emotions is okay. Everything is a season, and these complex emotions are actually beautiful because these are the emotions that make your humanity. These are the emotions that make you you. But Virgo, that's enough. That's enough of that, okay? Because as Chiron moves into Taurus, your healing journey shifts towards growth and new possibilities and spirituality and expanding your world. Woo! Finally, because these swampy waters need to have some new life worked up in them, right? We need to get this bacteria moving around on the surface. And actually, interestingly, it is in those swampy waters that life begins, from a scientific perspective. And you too are ready for a new beginning. You are ready for a new chapter. You are ready to do something with all of this wisdom that you have accrued. Over the next several years, you are going to be healing your relationship to hope itself, to faith itself, to trusting the unknown, to surrendering to a healing journey that actually allows life to surprise you and entertain you and, dare I say, delight you. This could look like travel or learning something new, going back to school, spiritual exploration, big philosophical shifts, or simply just giving yourself permission to stop being in a constant state of fight and flight, for once in your life for a change. Chiron in Taurus wants you to just loosen up a little, Virgo, to let things get bigger. Again, finally, for you, the real tea is that this next chapter is actually going to be healing from whatever healing you've been doing for the last 8 years. It's such tea, but Virgo, you need a break. Hello, Libra. Okay, sweet diplomatic angel baby. Let's talk about it. Chiron has been in Aries since 2018. Aries, of course, being your opposite sign. And honey, this means that relationships and partnerships and commitments and contracts and situationships and collaborationships, all of that has been where the healing has had to happen. It has happened in the dynamics that have changed your life for the better and those that have changed it for the worse. And then all of those that have just been sort of like neutral, chaotic, because truth be told, Libra, that's the real tea. The real tea is that your healing cannot depend on other people. Yes, honey, even for you, the relationship queen, you have had to learn that relationships are not going to save you. Ooh, yikes. So, honey, think back to 2018. Who was entering your life then? And since 2018, who has left your life? What dynamics ripped open these old wounds around rejection and reciprocity and compromise and trust, the feeling of being picked, right? Being chosen. What contracts did you enter? What contracts did you exit? Chiron in Aries has been exposing the insecurities around partnership and asking some very hard questions like, why have you been settling for less than you deserve? But now, Libra, the healing goes deeper, even deeper, because Chiron is moving into Taurus and the focus is going to shift towards intimacy and trust and vulnerability and grief and, get ready for it, transformation. Over the next several years, you are going to learn to deepen your relationship to emotional depth itself. Yes. That's shadow work, baby. That's learning how to trust yourself even when it doesn't feel like anything is working out in your favor. This is healing wounds around control and fear and even financial scarcity. It's giving 5 of Pentacles. This is learning that you are and have always been a magical witch. And maybe when you bippity boppity boo, you're going to find out that your life can change in amazing ways, but you have needed to trust your power the whole time. Libra, I'm not going to lie. This upcoming chapter is going to be intense. You're ready for it, but it is going to be intense. But it is also going to be deeply alchemical. Chiron in Taurus is going to transform the way that you protect yourself so that you can turn your reality into something that is a true reflection of your soul's karmic journey. And there's going to be literally zero room for people pleasing, okay? Like that's over. That is done. That is never happening again. So that process of learning how to prioritize and trust and embody your own magic, ultimately, this is going to be a tremendous tale. This is going to be an epic, but make sure that you are hydrated and dressed for the occasion because, woo, Chiron in Taurus is going to change your life forever. T. Hello, Scorpio. So this week, Chiron is moving into Taurus, which is your opposite sign, and that's going to be huge. But first, let us take a second to think about how far you have come over the past 7-8 years since Chiron moved into Aries and ignited that chapter in your life, okay? So Chiron in Aries has been moving through the area of your chart connected to work and routines and wellness and structure, your relationship to responsibility, which obviously explains why you are so tired, but actually exhausted. Am I right? You have had to recalibrate your entire reality since 2018 because whatever you came into that chapter with became obsolete. You have had to work so hard in order to catch up with yourself. And sometimes you've liked that, like you felt really productive, but then other times, oh, honey, you worked too hard. And then you got burnt out, and then you felt guilty about getting burnt out, so then you started hustling again. But then maybe some health things got stirred up, and then you had to deal with that. And then you got worried because you weren't exercising enough, and you weren't eating right, and then that entered your whole like kickboxing phase of life, or whatever it was. Like whatever the tea is, Scorpio, no matter how this has really played out for you individually, the truth is that you have tried over and over and over again to get into a flow state, and it's just been difficult. It has been very challenging, my darling, and that exactly what the healing comet has been trying to expose for you. The fact that this is not a quick and easy fix. Productivity, perfectionism, the pressure that you have been putting on yourself to optimize your life. It's a sham. It's a con. It's a grift. And you have had to learn that the hard way and really figure out what you want in your life and what you need to make time for. The choice to prioritize some things over other things. And you know what, Scorpio? I think you did an excellent job. I think you did great. Round of applause, Scorpio. So now what happens when you add a +1 to the mix? Oh, that's tea, because stir it up. here comes Chiron moving into Taurus, your opposite sign, and the healing is going to shift into partnership and love and contracts and commitments and all of those very, very critical interpersonal dynamics, okay? Over the next several years, but starting this week, relationships are going to become a huge part of your healing journey. And yes, Scorpio, I know, scary. Whoa, vulnerability? You don't like it. You are actually allergic, anaphylactic. Yes, you are. But Chiron in Taurus is going to help you recover some of that cellular damage, okay? It's going to expose those wounds that you have had for a long, long time around closeness and rejection and loyalty and dependence and interdependence so that you can actually build healthier dynamics. Some relationships are going to go really deep. Some are going to end. That's just how it goes. But the lesson is this: you can no longer just heal by yourself. So if Chiron in Aries taught you how to care, Chiron in Taurus is going to teach you how to let other people care for you too. I know it's scary, but you're going to be okay. It's a sleigh. We love growth. We love growth, and we love your growth. And you are going to excel because that's what you do. Hi, Sagittarius. I want you to think back to 2018, okay? Because that's when Chiron first started dabbling in Aries, which is a like-minded fire sign. And for you, this brought healing into an area of your life around creativity and talent and skills and love and flirty, sexy vibes, which should have been nice, but Chiron is about the wounds. So what this has shown you in particular since 2018 is that maybe the feeling of rejection, the feeling of not being good enough, the feeling of embarrassment or vulnerability or taking creative risks and then falling on your face or not getting the response you hoped for is actually inevitable. Maybe you thought you were going to be the best in the land at the thing that you love and that you have been passionate about for so long, and then you came in last place and that humbled you. Or maybe you realized that, oh my God, I don't even know what brings me joy anymore. And Sag, it's heavy, but hey, Chiron is about reconciling those wounds, right? It's about integrating them. So of course, we got to throw a little salt in them to stir it up so we can really understand what we need to focus on. Sagittarius, I think like broadly, Chiron in Aries has been about you reclaiming permission to want things, whether that's love or pleasure or art, and to divorce that from needing to be accepted and celebrated and the best in the pursuits of your creative talents. And broadly, like I think that you did well under very difficult circumstances. I think you should be very proud of yourself because having your art and your love and your creativity challenged is not easy. But now Chiron is moving into Taurus and the healing journey is changing. And it's getting practical over the next several years. But starting this week, your focus is going to shift towards health and work and routines and structure, the relationship you have to your body. And before you roll your eyes at me, don't you dare. I know that structure isn't your thing. I want you to hear me out. Chiron in Taurus is going to ask, what systems are supporting your life? What habits are nourishing you? What artistic and creative and romantic rhythms are actually helping you thrive? What calendar management system actually gives you your time back? Tea, honey. This is healing through consistency. This is healing through showing up for yourself. This is healing through learning that all of the things that you want in your life are going to be easier to access when you're actually prepared for them. And this chapter is going to teach you that discipline and joy do not have to be enemies. In fact, they can smooch because the right routines may be the very thing that puts it all together and helps you reconcile whatever has been going on since 2018 and then take it to the next level. And yeah, you can still be spontaneous, Sag, but maybe, I don't know, it's more of like a planned chaos, a planned burn than something that comes completely out of left field and leaves like destruction in its wake. You know what I mean? You get the vibe? You get the vibe. You're a Sagittarius. Ultimately, this next chapter is learning how to work with the flames rather than to be devoured by them. Capricorn, my, what a ride this has been. Can we get off now? When is this ride going to end? Honey, actually, it ends this week. And if you want a reminder as to what Alice teacup you have been spinning around on, well, starting in 2018, Chiron moved into Aries, and it has been activating some very, very, very tough stuff around your home, around your family, around your childhood, around your safety, around what I refer to as your villain origin story. Yeah, all of that. And it has been very fucking hard. So think back to 2018, Capricorn. Does your life look unrecognizable now than it did then? I sure bet it does. So what are the things that have changed in your life, in your family dynamics? What old wounds around belonging or support or feeling emotionally safe, how did they demand your attention and really come up over the past several years? Maybe some family relationships became very complicated. Maybe your home itself changed. Maybe you had to confront childhood memories that you did not expect to ever revisit again. Because Chiron in Aries has been asking you to heal the foundation, heal the core, get to the root of it, baby, to understand that being emotionally self-sufficient doesn't mean that you didn't need support in the first place. There's a reason that you are so tough, am I right? But now, honey, Capricorn, the energy shifts because as Chiron moves into Taurus, a fellow earth sign, your healing journey turns towards joy and pleasure and romance and creativity and a little self-expression, a little glitter, a little glamour. This is a good thing. Capricorn, it's a nice thing. And over the next several years, you are going to be healing your relationship to happiness itself, to fun, to desire, to just being sexy. Yes, you, Capricorn, you are allowed to get a little wild from time to time and dance on a table. Chiron in Taurus is going to want you to, because Chiron in Taurus is going to want to know what lights you up. What makes life feel worth living? How can joy become part of your healing experience? How could it be a modality? And yes, Capricorn, obviously you're going to feel a little vulnerable because it's all vulnerable. Love is vulnerable. Creativity is vulnerable. But I think that you are about to remember something so critically important, which is that laughter is also a form of healing. And you can, and you should, take that modality very seriously too. We love to see it. Hello, Aquarius. You sort of chronically feel misunderstood, right? But actually, think back to what has changed in your life since 2018. This feeling of being misunderstood or being left out or being forgotten, it's become more and more dominant. And that's because Chiron in Aries, since 2018, has been activating the area of your chart around communication and friendship and closeness and feeling like you're actually part of something, like you actually belong somewhere. And maybe ultimately, Aquarius, the experience has been realizing that like you don't feel adequately heard. People are not getting what you are throwing down. And it has been difficult for you to keep trying to get them to understand when they just are not listening. They just can't get it. It is not clocking, right? And there is a really deep wound there, a real injury around just never feeling like it's easy for you to form those connections and get on the same wavelength as someone else. But now, Aquarius, the story is changing. And I'm not saying it's going to get easier, but it is going to help you start connecting the dots. Because when Chiron moves into Taurus, your attention is going to shift towards your family and your roots and your emotional safety and really where you come from. Over the next several years, you are going to be healing your relationship to belonging on a very deep level. This may look like changes in your home, right? Or healing family dynamics. Maybe it's moving, or it is intentionally choosing to start building a life that actually feels emotionally safe for you. Or simply realizing that maybe some of these ongoing sensations and pain points don't ever really come from that moment. They actually come from the past, right? They come from your childhood. They come from your parents' childhood. Maybe they're inherited and they're ancient, and yet they still deserve your acknowledgement because they are still part of your story too. That is such tea. Because Aquarius, with all of your brilliance, Chiron and Taurus is going to ask a very simple but very poignant question of you. Where do you feel safe? Do you ever feel safe? And that, my friend, deserves some examination. Ahoy, Pisces. This is a big week because Chiron, the wounded healer, is changing signs. But since 2018, it's been in Aries. And that has walked you through some very sensitive terrain around worth, like your deep worth, your self-worth, your financial worth, your emotional worth, the question of whether you are worthy. Big stuff, Pisces. Big stuff. So think back to 2018. What happened since and around then with money or work or stability or the ways that you have been showing up for everyone else emotionally, spiritually, financially, while wondering, yoo-hoo, is anyone going to pour back into you and your story? Because here's the thing, Pisces baby, you are literally the most generous sign of the zodiac. You would give the shirt off your back to someone who asked for it, and you have literally done that. But Chiron in Aries is really making sure that you recognize that you can give. But if part of you is giving because you feel like you need to earn that love, like giving is the only way that you are going to be accepted, honey, we got a problem. So maybe for you, Chiron in Aries has looked like recognizing like you cannot keep pouring from an empty cup. You're stressed. You're burnt out. You have been undervaluing yourself, undercharging, overfunctioning, staying in situations where you are giving way too much. And that has humbled you because you realize like, actually, I can't keep this up. I have to set a boundary. I have to pull back. I'm proud of you, Pisces, because you got there. And now let's keep it going. Let's keep the story rolling on because as Chiron enters Taurus this week, the healing shifts towards your voice, your perspective, your confidence in your own ideas, the way you communicate and express yourself to the world. And I love this for you. I adore it because over the next several years, you are going to stop apologizing for your intuition because you are going to start trusting it. This could look like you really getting into writing or teaching or speaking or making art, finding a way to articulate your experiences that you once could not explain, that you didn't have the words or the tools for, right? And yeah, obviously there's gonna be vulnerability around visibility. Duh, it's Chiron, it's the wound. Maybe you're afraid you're gonna say the wrong thing or that you're not gonna sound smart enough or you're gonna be misunderstood. Oh, Pisces, it's okay. It's all okay because this next chapter of life is going to teach you that you matter and that your voice always matters. And the cool thing is that somewhere deep down, I think that you already know that. My friends, that is all for our weekly brew. What did you think? What did you love? Are you ready for Chiron in Taurus? Let me know in the comments what you think and be sure to find me on Wednesday for the tea party because we're going to talk about Chiron mythologically and we're going to talk about Chiron in your birth chart, what your Chiron means for you. Make sure to tune in every Monday and every Wednesday for all new episodes of astrology. And don't forget to rate 5 stars, review, follow, and subscribe so you never, ever miss a delicious cup of tea. All right. I love you. See you soon.